Anu from Anumation. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who is Anu?
I am an artist. I'm an illustrator from Vancouver, born and raised in Surrey.
Yeah.
So I've just always been interested in art, and I decided to pursue this. My full-time job, I'm a mobile game artist, but when I can, as a passion project, I post my art online as Anumation.
Sweet. So take me back in the day. I think this whole social media thing was really amazing for artists, because I think back in the day, art was really hard to get out there, or to at least surpass that line where people knew about you.
Yeah.
So take me back to you posting. I don't know how it ended up going for you, but let's say you posted a few things or whatever that vibe was when you were like, okay, this could go somewhere.
I actually started. The very first time I started posting art online was when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Using DeviantArt. I don't know if you remember DeviantArt, but it was basically the place where you would post art online.
Yeah.
But back then I was mostly doing a lot of fan art, Lord of the Rings, Legend of Zelda, that sort of thing, because that's what I was really interested in when I was a teenager. But at the same time, and then I started using Tumblr when Tumblr became a thing.
Tumblr's so addictive.
Yeah. I had to wean myself off of Tumblr.
Yeah.
Basically, when I started going on Tumblr, that's when I started to really, kind of dabble in posting personal art, and that was around the time I was about to graduate from university.
Okay. And
my personal art was a lot of basically celebration of our culture, South Asian girls. I was really into fashion. And just character art, so that's when I started to do that. But I used to notice that people didn't really, they didn't really vibe with my art as much back then. They were, for example, when I would post something based on a video game or a comic book, I noticed that it would get a lot more notes and likes. But when I posted my own thing, I was lucky if maybe I got 3 or 5. So back then,
can I pause you for a second?
Yeah.
At that time, what enticed you to share South Asian art? Was it just because it was something familiar, or did you feel like, hey, there's something that needs to be seen?
That was something that I just honestly wanted to do.
Okay, cool.
Because there's only so much fan art you can draw. I wanted to draw my own characters, and that was just me kind of putting my feelers out there to see what the reception would be. But it wasn't until I got into animation school that I really started to push that more and be you know what, I don't give a shit if people don't like this. I want to pursue this. I want to make characters based on this. So yeah,
that's amazing. Okay, so then you get Instagram, and how was the beginning of that for you? Because as a creator, there's the creation portion of it, and then there's also the marketing aspect of it. So how did you start blending the two in order to create that following?
It took me a while, honestly, to muster up the courage. Well, not the courage, but the drive to start my Instagram page.
Yeah, it's a hustle.
That, and also I just was I don't know, I just kind of want to do it. I just want to see what happens. I never, at the back of my mind, I'd be it would be so cool if a bunch of people liked my art. But I never really had the mindset to really think that way. More so, I was just I just want to put my art out there.
Cool.
So I started my Instagram during my first job at an animation studio, and I basically needed it as an outlet to draw my own characters.
So it helped you practice.
And also because I was at my studio, you're working on art and characters for whatever production you're on, but I'm I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
So that's when that started, and just slowly but surely, people started to notice.
So let's say when people started to notice, what was the illustration that caught people's eyes?
I want to say it was when I started to do fashion illustration of Bollywood, not Bollywood actresses, but also based on fashion designers from India, because I'm really into fashion, but also especially South Asian fashion. And during the first year of my Instagram, that's when I started following all the fashion magazines Crazy and the blogs, and I was oh my god, I like that outfit, I wonder if I could draw it. So then I would just kind of do stuff based on that, but in characters in my own style. I have a very kind of cartoony Disney and anime inspired style, so I think people kind of liked that.
I love your style.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's always evolving though.
Yeah, it's always evolving. And I've noticed that because when I was preparing for the interview, I noticed how your work, if you do anything every day, it's going to get better, right? But it wasn't obviously it got better, but it wasn't just that I felt got better. I feel you came in through your art.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's one thing. That's why I kind of kept a lot of my older stuff on my page, because I want people, if they care, if they scroll through, to be like, oh, like back in the early days, she was more into like portraits, fashion, but I wasn't really telling stories. I was basically celebrating or drawing what I saw in my own style.
Yeah.
But if you look at my stuff now, I kind of, through Instagram, realized that what I want to do is tell stories through my illustrations.
Yeah.
And that's where I am now. Like, I still love fashion, and I think that kind of shines through in my art a lot.
Yeah.
But it's more just, like, if I can kind of tell a story or help people relate in a way, that's my goal, essentially.
What story, because I absolutely personally love that. I think that illustrations with stories are so important, because I feel like it's a different way for us to connect with ourselves, and that is something, like, our art is there for us to connect to, but we're giving our art in order for other people to have their own interpretation. What was the story that you connected with the most when you were sharing it?
I don't know if there was one in particular. I feel like a lot of, like, especially, for example, I used to post a lot of comics, and I still want to, it's just they take a lot of time.
Yeah, they do.
And when you work full-time, it's hard to, like, draw comics as much as you want.
Yeah.
All my comics are basically things, if I haven't experienced, like, people in my life have experienced, like, it's all kind of just like a blend, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the more life that you live, like, the more that you have experiences you have with, like, work and love and family, like, that gives you just more stories to tell. And I feel like, in terms of which one really resonates, I'm not entirely sure, like, a bit of all of them. Yeah.
Well, they're all your stories, right?
Yeah.
Something that I found that was super important was, this is something I try to bring out in my own artwork, is the fact that there's this sexual oppression that South Asian women face, you know? And I understand it, and I understand that, like, a lot of the people who are here in Vancouver, they're first generation, right?
Yeah.
So we are doing a lot of the work to break these boundaries, these barriers, but how did that start working into your work, and how did you feel empowered once that happened?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said, like, I felt that my whole life. Like, it's just, like the whole notion of shame. Like,
straight up, you know?
Straight
you
up
can't win
shame.
on either side.
You can't win. It's just like, I can't wear, like, when you, like, I used to feel weird even at hall parties, like, if my sari blouse was too high, or my lehenga blouse, I'd be like, do I have a chunni that can kind of cover this? Just because, like, and I'm like, why are we like this? And Bollywood, like, and, like, in ancient India, nobody used to wear clothing anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, what happened to make us feel so embarrassed of our bodies, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, like, just, like, in terms of, like, with my art, I don't want to just be like, look at me, I'm this way. It's more just, like, I want people to understand that, like, our bodies are beautiful, and, like, who we are, like, we shouldn't be ashamed of who we are.
Yeah.
And so that's something I try to tackle in my art. And it's something I'm going to actually be tackling more in my newer stuff coming up, because it's something that I'm really passionate
as you
about.
you grow more passionate with that. Yeah. And it's, you know, something that I personally really loved. I love that you, because, you know, there's the issues that we face as Indian women, you know, there's, like, shame, and then there's stuff that I feel like we face as women in general, is, you know, like, you had one artwork that was like, hey, do you have a tampon? And I loved that one, because I don't think any of us have not been in that situation. And even how in there, I don't know if it was in your story or if it was in the actual comic, but it was how, yo, don't use a tampon. You're like, you know?
So she was asking for a pad just because, like, I did not know what tampons were when I was in high school. Like, I was just like, how does this work?
How does this work?
What is anything? Like, and then, so that was me straight up. Like, the girl in that comic. Like, that's what I looked like in high school.
I love it.
Yeah.
No, it was super authentic. Okay, so take me back to when you started sharing this, and now you're starting to curate your art, you're starting to put it out there. You always go further together, right? So when did you start go from taking it from the gram to taking it to the world? When you started showcasing it or collaborating, what was that process like for you as a creator?
It was hard, honestly. Like, you see, like, the thing about me is, like, my page, I started it, like, 3 years ago. And in the first year, I barely hit 1,000 followers. Just, and like I wasn't really sure how to approach people, because like there's just like this weird notion in my mind, and I know a lot of other people feel
you're finding
this
your
way.
sound too.
You're finding your sound, but you're also just like, oh, this person's so big time, I don't know if I should talk to them, like what if they ignore me, right? And so like I would try, and then like if one or two wouldn't get back to me, I'd be like, oh damn, like, I suck, right?
You get hurt.
You get hurt, but you're also just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't bother.
Yeah.
And so I just like, I don't know, I just thought maybe I just had to, like, I had to get over that feeling.
You had to keep doing
be quite
it.
honest. Yeah. So I had to just, I just started talking to people, and then I could tell some people that I were following are really approachable, and I started to realize these guys, like, why am I putting them on a pedestal? They're just people.
They're just you.
They're just me. Like, they're trying to tell stories as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then over time it got easier and easier, and I've made so many amazing connections just through Instagram alone.
Yeah.
So it's pretty great, and like just by like putting my art out there, like people started to notice, and then the people I collaborated with, they tell their friends, I tell my friends about them, and it's just like that's how people would notice. And
did you think that was the kind of the key element that helped you butt open?
Yeah, I would say so. Like that was how I realized kind of the power of social media. Like you can, it's so like. I think the old-fashioned way is like, oh, you got to just sit there and wait for your big break sort of thing. But nowadays it's so easy, or it's not easy.
It's not easy. I think that
it's different.
It's different. Yeah.
It's different to like, there's avenues you can take to put yourself out there more. If it was easy, everyone had to have 1 million followers.
Yeah.
And like, have all these like amazing experiences, but you just got to put in the work. And I feel like I'm a very firm believer of everything happens for a reason, and everything happens when it happens for a reason. So if you think that way, then it's just like everything's going the way it should.
It's going the way that it should.
Yeah.
So tell me, where can we find your art this summer?
So I'm going to be showing my art at 5X Festival, which is a festival celebrating South Asian arts and culture. Coming up in June, I have an art show with them, curated by Don't Those, and it's June 13th at the Annex downtown in the evening. And more information is on the 5X website, 5x.com.